Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And I've got some fairly interesting show prep here. This is one of the articles that I was deciding about covering last Monday. And, you know, the show prep is just sort of building up on me. And part of that is because, well, we're not doing that Wednesday show for the next several months. But that doesn't mean that I'm not still accruing show prep. So I've got plenty of show prep. And don't forget, every Friday, when I don't have a special guest for some unusual reason, I do answer your questions. So keep those coming, ama@fppradio.com. And I've got a good batch of questions for this week, but again, always looking for more questions because I'd rather have more questions than not enough, if that makes any sense. And you may recall a while back, just going to divert here to talk about the AMA for a bit. You may recall a while back I covered a question, or I had a question about, is it true that a court ruled that burritos aren't sandwiches? And yes, that was true. And I went into, you know, like the history of how they came about even having that court decision. And there was something that I shared on Facebook a couple days ago that I would love to get into on an Ask Me Anything. So here's a hint. Send me a question asking about this. A federal court ruled that Snuggies are not clothes. Yes, that was an actual court decision. And again, like I say, I would love to delve into that. So hint, hint, somebody send that to me as a question. ama@fppradio.com. And unlike other podcasts and radio shows where they'll do AMAs and sometimes they make up questions for themselves, I don't do that. So if I don't have questions, then I don't make stuff up to answer. I'll just, you know, go in and rant on whatever I want to or delve through some of the show prep that I have. So speaking of show prep, article that I thought about getting into last Monday, did not cover. But, you know, we're getting to that time to where people are going to start doing what they call spring cleaning, decluttering their house. And apparently, when you declutter your house, it also kind of has the effect of decluttering your mind to some extent, because there's a link. According to some researchers, there's a link between clutter and depression. The article here comes from houselogic.com. They say dishes in the sink, toys throughout the house, stuff covering every flat surface. The clutter not only makes your house look bad, it makes you feel bad as well. At least that's what researchers at UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families, abbreviated CELF, discovered when they explored in real time the relationship between 32 California families and the thousands of objects in their home. The resulting book, Life at Home in the 21st Century, is a rare look at how middle-class Americans use the space in their home and interact with the things they accumulate over a lifetime. Our overworked closets are overflowing with things we rarely touch. And I'm just going to pause here to say that I've talked about, you know, minimalization or minimalism to some extent. There was a podcast I was listening to a while back about a guy that says that he owns, it's either 15 or 18 items. I forget the number, but it's some really low number of things. And every time he acquires something new, he gets rid of something. And he said, well, you might think that, you know, like it gets expensive to wind up, having a wardrobe. but it doesn't. And he mentioned, you can go to like a Family Dollar or Dollar General, some, really low discount store, get a 3-pack of shirts for like $10. And this guy also doesn't have an apartment. He travels a lot, so he just stays long-term at Airbnbs, and he replenishes his toiletries, like the deodorant and toothpaste at the Airbnb, because a lot of times they'll provide those things for you so that he doesn't have to count those amongst the items that he has because, well, he doesn't necessarily own those per se. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody, necessarily get down to where they only own, like enough less items than you could count on your fingers and your toes, assuming that you have, a full set of fingers and toes. And for those of you wondering, that would be 5 on each hand and 5 on each feet or each foot. So a total of 20. Just because, there might be somebody listening that has like, a 6th finger or a 6th toe. And I do know somebody that only has 4 toes. I've never actually seen their foot, but at least not in person. Like I saw a picture of it, and it's a cute little foot. Just happens to be missing a toe. But I digress and continue. The article continues. It turns out that clutter has a profound effect on our mood and self-esteem. CELF's anthropologist, social scientist, and archaeologist found the following. A link between high cortisol, that is the stress hormone, in female homeowners and high density of household objects. The more stuff, the more stress women feel. Men, on the other hand, and this according to the study, and yes, they are painting with a broad brush because that's what they do in studies. Men, on the other hand, don't seem bothered by mess, which accounts for tension between tidy wives and their clutter bug husbands. And again, they are painting here with a broad brush. And I think, at least for me, I like to have my space kind of like an organized chaos thing, to where I know where things are. Somebody else might not be able to, readily identify anything. It might not be organized in the, traditional method of, these things are in alphabetical order. But I know where they are, and that's good enough, right? Maybe? I don't know. We'll continue. Stay tuned to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
Hi, this is Roger Paxton from the Lava Flow Podcast, the Free Coast Freecast, and Pax Libertas Productions, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And we'll get back into this article here in just a moment. But first, I want to make sure that I tell you about a way that you can keep your money in the free market. That is, assuming that you do use free market money, right? You do use Bitcoin as an alternative to this, fiat-centric thing that we've got going on. If so, then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. Spend-A-Bit is a search engine for things that you can buy with Bitcoin. Spend a Bit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants, including Overstock.com and Free Press publications. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a Bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant, like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. Back to the article about the connection between clutter and depression. Again, study done by UCLA's CELF, that is the Center on Everyday Lives and Families, where they studied 32 families and the, quote, thousands of objects in their home, end quote. What they found was a link between high cortisol levels in female homeowners and a high density of household objects, cortisol being the stress hormone. They also found that women associate a tidy home with a happy and successful family. The more dishes that pile up in the sink, the more anxious the women would feel. Even families that want to reduce clutter often are emotionally paralyzed when it comes to sorting and pitching objects. I'm sure you've had this experience, right? To where you're like, I need to get rid of some stuff. And then you start going and, oh, well, this has so many memories. I remember when I got this T-shirt or whatever it is. There's sentimental value to the things. And so, therefore, you can't throw out the things, even though you've never, looked at the things, except for during those times where you're saying, I need to go through and throw stuff out. The write-up here continues, they either can't break sentimental attachment to objects or believe that their things have hidden monetary value. And that hidden monetary value, I'm guessing if you've never seen the show Hoarders, you're at least familiar with the show Hoarders, to where there are some people that are like, I've got this wonderful collection of fill in the blank. And I know I can sell it for something, but okay, if you think that it's worth something, post it on eBay. Oh, well, I can't post it because it's got sentimental value. Well, do you have it because of sentimental value or because it's worth something? Yes. So, there is this attachment that, most people have to things. The study or the write-up continues with another thing that the scientists found in studying these 32 families. They said that although U.S. consumers bear only 3% of the world's children, we buy 40% of the world's toys, and these toys live in every room, fighting for display space with kids' trophies, artwork, and snapshots of their last soccer game. Although the book Life at Home documents the clutter problem, the book offers no solutions, but there are some simple things that we can do to declutter our lives and raise our spirits. The article says, adopt the rule of 5. Every time you get up from your desk or walk through a room, put away 5 things. Each hour devote 5 minutes to decluttering. At the end of the day, you've cleaned for 1 hour. That's assuming that you do it for 12 hours. Maybe you're only in your house for 8 hours. But nonetheless, you get the point here, right? So spend just 5 minutes cleaning, and then 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Pretty soon we're talking about actual time, right? The next rule here, or suggestion, I guess, that they have for decluttering your house is to be ruthless about your kitchen sink. And the kitchen sink is something that if you've listened to the show previously, you've heard me reference in talking about how to achieve goals. And the example that I give, and I did not create this example, but I love it, and I don't believe in intellectual property, and I don't remember who said it, so I'm just going to repeat it. The example is, if the goal is to clean the kitchen, and the kitchen is a metaphor for whatever your goal is. So the goal is clean the kitchen. You walk in, the floor is dirty. I almost said the dirt is floory. Could be the same thing depending on how dirty the floor is, right? The floor is dirty. The stove is a mess. There's stuff all over the counters, and the sink is full of dishes. And you walk in, I'm going to clean the kitchen, and then you're overwhelmed, and you turn around, and you walk away, and the kitchen never gets clean. But if you break it down into little tasks of, I'm going to do the dishes, and then I'm going to clean the counter, and then I'm going to wipe off the stove, and then I'm going to sweep and mop the floor. Then, after you do each of those little subtasks, eventually your goal is met. And again, the kitchen is a metaphor for whatever your goal is. I'm going to start $1 million business. I'm going to, travel around the world. I'm going to fill in the blank. Break it down into little subtasks. So you want to travel the world? Visit every country that there is? Okay, start by going to Canada or Mexico, whichever one's closer to you, and then go to the Bahamas, and then go to Guatemala, Argentina, and just down the line, and eventually you've got all of the Americas covered, and then you go to Europe, and then you get all of the European countries covered. Again, the kitchen is a metaphor, so break it down into smaller tasks. But I'll explain what they mean here by be ruthless about the kitchen sink. And no, it's not a metaphor for anything. They're actually talking about don't let dishes pile up in your sink. Stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $1 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. That's where you will not only find the archives to the show, but you will also find links over to all of our affiliates, including the Liberty Radio Network, IPM Nation, and many, many more. Again, fppradio.com. Talking about the link between clutter and depression and what you can do to fix it. The article from houselogic.com references a book written by researchers at UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families. What the researchers found was a link between high cortisol, that's stress hormone levels in female homeowners, and a high density of stuff. Women in the study associate a tidy home with a happy, successful family. Even families that want to reduce clutter are often emotionally paralyzed, meaning that they've got sentimental value or sentimental connections to almost everything, or they believe that it's worth something, and so we can't throw it away. And even though American consumers have only 3% of the world's children, American consumers purchase 40% of the world's toys, and these things are all over the house. Again, the book written by the researchers they say here, did not offer solution. They mentioned the problem, but they did not offer solutions. So the author of this article at House Logic does offer some solutions. The first one being adopt the rule of 5, meaning put away, every time you get up and walk away from your desk, put away 5 things. Every hour, spend 5 minutes decluttering. At the end of the day, that's going to equal about an hour of cleaning. Be ruthless about the kitchen sink. Pledge to clear and clean your kitchen sink every day. It only takes a couple of minutes to place a dish in. They say to place a dish in the dishwasher, and they say a couple seconds, but not everybody has a dishwasher, so it only takes a couple minutes to wash the dishes. What I personally like to do is, as I'm cooking, I'll wash dishes and put them to dry as I'm cooking. I know it sounds strange, right? But then when you're done, you've only got like the plate that you're eating on and the fork that you're using to clean, instead of here's like 2 pots and a pan and this and just screw it. But if you clean as you go, makes it a little bit easier. They say a clean sink will instantly raise your spirits and decrease anxiety. Put photos away. Return to yesteryear when only photos of ancestors or weddings earn a place. Put snapshots in a family album, which will immediately declutter many flat surfaces. Next, unburden your refrigerator door. And again, no, this is not a metaphor for something else. Researchers have found a correlation between the number of items stuck in the refrigerator door and the amount of clutter throughout the house. Toss extra magnets, file restaurant menus, and place calendars in less conspicuous places. So again, what they're talking about, the refrigerator door here, not the inside, but the outside of the refrigerator door. Now, I know there are some people that, they'll just throw everything somewhere in the inside of the refrigerator door, the little thing that some people use for butter, other people use for, here's all the condiment packs that came with my Chinese takeout or whatever. That could also be a sign that, other things are cluttered, but they're talking here about the outside of the refrigerator door. So if you've got, like a bunch of takeout menus, etc. on your refrigerator door, chances are there's going to be clutter throughout the rest of the house. They say hack out unexpected storage space. You won't believe all the places that you can squirrel away your stuff. And I think that some people will believe all the unusual, and I'm using air quotes there, unusual places that you can store stuff, especially if you have children or if you remember what it was like when you were a kid. Remember when you were like 7, 8 years old, mom or dad would come in and say, clean your room. What'd you do? You put everything up under the bed. Just like push it all under the bed. Doesn't matter what it is. Just push it all under the bed or shove it all in the closet. So, yeah, you can find places to store stuff. And a lot of the storage bins now are made in sizes to where they will easily go up under a bed. So those are some suggestions there for unexpected storage space. But it's really better if you don't need to, wind up storing a bunch of stuff, right? And the final suggestion here, test whether you'll miss it. Fill a box with items that you don't love or use. Seal the box, place it in a closet. If you have not opened the box in a year, donate the box unopened to charity. So just take the box and take it down to a Goodwill or a Salvation Army or some other thrift store place that winds up taking stuff. And that's a really good idea, right? I was actually thinking, because I've got some stuff that I know I've not used in a while, I was just thinking of, here's some stuff. I don't remember the last time I used it. Just throw it out. Some of it, may or may not be something that Goodwill or Salvation Army would want to sell. I don't know. I look at it this way. If I consider it junk, other people probably will as well. So why give my junk to somebody else that's going to have to wind up throwing it away? Right? I don't know. It's suggestions. The link will be in the show notes. As always, stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show that I've not been doing a Wednesday show for about a month and a half, and probably will not have a Wednesday show for a couple more months. You might be asking the question, but Darryl, why aren't you doing a Wednesday show for the time being? I'm glad you asked. And yes, I know today's not the day that I answer your questions, but I'm going to answer this one anyway. The reason is because I'm a lobbyist. And I know that's a bad word in some places, right? Lobbyist. Ooh, sounds so dirty, but not all lobbyists are the same. Not all lobbyists are for hire, advocating for special interest and special, protections from government. Some lobbyists, and there's not many, but some lobbyists are actually working for you. The regular person that loves the idea of liberty. And I'm one such lobbyist. And as far as I know, I'm the only crowd-funded lobbyist. Now, some people might say, well, Darryl, what about the NRA and the ACLU and some of those other entities? Well, sure, they do have lobbyists, and those people are paid, from a crowd, but those organizations also do things other than lobby. And all of the funds that I raise as a lobbyist are used to cover my expenses to go to the New Hampshire State House and to advocate for more freedom. Advocating in favor of good legislation and, more importantly, in opposition to bad legislation. I believe it was Calvin Coolidge who once said it's more important to stop bad legislation than to wind up passing good legislation, and I wholeheartedly agree. And again, I'm not a for-hire lobbyist, so if you donate and then say, Darryl, I want you to do X, unless it's something that I was planning to do anyway or was already supportive of, you're not going to be able to buy me into doing what you want. People that donate to my lobbyist firm, and you can find out more at libertylobby.info, people that donate to the lobbyist firm are donating because they like what I'm doing. They like the fact that there is a pro-liberty voice in the New Hampshire State House as a lobbyist trying to prevent that bad legislation from going through. Again, to find out more, libertylobby.info. And don't forget, every Friday I answer your questions. Send those over ama@fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.